So I'm minding my own business and I look outside and son of a gun, all of my cymbidiums are in bloom. Can you believe that? All of them. I've probably got 20 stakes, cymbidium orchids, absolutely gorgeous. I'm looking at them right now. It's just, and you know what? They bloom from January to now. So can you think of a flower that blooms for 4 or 5 months and looks pretty darn good for that 4 or 5 months?
I I only know about the what you're talking about.
And then there's some of those flowers that last a day. Like there's some of those succulents, right? They just
Mhm.
bloom and they're done. Good morning. He's Dewey Freeman. I'm Mark Sylvester. This is the Elder Council. And I'm inspired by a TED talk that was this year, was a guy who's a NYU professor at the Stern Business School, Scott Galloway. And I would encourage people to go watch that. It's a really great talk. But one of the things that he says, and I went and I did a little bit of research, and he's been saying this for more than 10 years, is that when you hear these motivational talks and you hear people talk about, they will say, follow your passion. And he suggests that that's, in his words, bullshit. And I hadn't really ever heard that point of view before. And what he suggests is that what you ought to do instead is find a thing that you're good at and that you can make money at, and then become great at that. And as a result of becoming great at that, you'll be able to make more money. You'll get all the things that come with being great at something. And I love that point of view. And so for the last couple of weeks, when I'm working with people, I'll ask them the question, what do you want to be great at? And what's been interesting to me is that seems to be a question they've never considered.
No kidding. Actually, I can see that. So, question for you. So, 2 questions, and then I actually have a take on what he was saying. And I actually love that clip that you sent me. So, I don't know if there's any way to attach that to the show so that people can
I'll
see it.
figure it out.
If I don't wanna do any copyright infringement kind of thing.
I'll make a link in the show notes.
Yeah. But the Do you have any sense when you remember when you found that thing that you're going to be great at?
100%. For me, it was cooking. And I had been around, my mom loved to, she was, a home cook, worked a working nurse, but her hobby was getting interesting cookbooks and then working from those cookbooks and creating really interesting dishes for my brother and I. And and I would always, when she worked days, which means she'd get off at 2, we would go shopping when I get home from school and then spend the late afternoon preparing whatever it was. And so from the time I was 7 or 8, I can remember that being a part of our lives. And when I had a chance to get a job, like an actual job where I got paycheck, it was a cooking job. And I found I loved it. It was hard work. It was really hard work, but I had a natural inclination for it. And so I spent my entire 20s cooking, and I was extremely lucky to have uh, the opportunity to work at 4 different places where the chef I was working with, it was his last year of being a chef. He then retired. So I was the young, eager 20 something who he passed. He wanted to make sure all the tricks, he told someone
All
all
the
his
tricks.
tricks. Yeah. And so I was fantastic for me, and I loved it, and I got really good at it, and I became, well known for it. And so all the things that happened, and I wanted to be great at that and being able to do that. And now, ironically, since I've stopped doing technology full time, I'm cooking again. Now I'm a private chef, and I
Mhm.
find I absolutely love it. And what's interesting, what Scott says is the people who say follow your passion are already rich, right?
So I love what you just said. Let me pick up on that. Not only are the people that are already rich say that, but I think many people say that. And in all honesty, I think it's a way, every time I hear that from somebody, my insides cringe. It's like,
Oh, no kidding.
yeah, and have for years.
Uh,
And actually, in part, what in that little piece that Scott Galloway did, that sort of connected in. Um, I actually think it's a way to keep men small. I think it's a way to keep men in a box.
mm,
And the reason I say that is because what two pieces. One is what Scott was saying. It's like in the little clip, it's like nobody grows up and says, my passion's going to be a tax attorney. Nobody
right.
does that. I mean, maybe somebody has. I could probably be proven wrong 1 out of 1 million, but the many times what I hear from people is my passion is to help people, or my passion is coaching, or my passion is art. And the truth is that those things are very difficult to make a living at. And those things are very difficult to make a fortune at. And I mean, a few people make, millions writing some books about some of those things. But I think it's a way to hold to put a lid on what we do and the changes that we can make in the world. And your question is, what can we follow, what we could be great at? That I think is a step up. Step up for me from that is, can we follow, I can't think of the right word. It's like, can we follow what would make change, or can we follow, I mean, those kinds of things. Can we follow that versus follow our passion? Um, and I apologize for not having this word, but it's almost, can we follow our integrity versus follow our passion? That's the word for me.
I think the reason this idea, because I heard it during TED, I heard it and I was like, oh. And I remember writing it down. What do you want to be great at? And it follows a succession of I collect questions, right? I think you know that about me. I collect interesting questions. And when I'm meeting someone for the first time, or I'm interviewing someone who's going to be on Making Waves, my TEDx Salon series of conversations, I have a core belief which is very aligned with TED, which is why I've been a TEDster for almost 40 years now, is ideas change everything. Okay, I believe that. And I believe a one human on one day can say a thing in less than 20 minutes that can change everything. I've seen it happen many, 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 many times. And then I also believe that if we really think about it, most of us have an idea. We've just never had our feet held to the fire about what that idea might be.
Mm.
And so my questions are, what do you want to be known for? Who do you want to be known as? When someone introduces you, how would you like them to introduce you? Dewey is the, Mark is the, and then what do you want to be great at? And so that then when I heard that question, I went, yeah, that's the third question. So when I'm working with someone, it's usually mid-career and they've been doing a thing, but that thing either was a natural progression, it was something they'd always wanted to do, and they went to college and they learned how to do that, and they got whatever certification or education you need, and then they went out and did that. Or there's someone like me who backed into a thing and it turned out to be a thing that they really loved. A lot of us backed into was more of an opportunistic thing. And then you hit 40-ish and you're like, whoa, I don't like that anymore. I want to do something else. I have a point of view, and we tend to attract those people who have a strong point of view. But then when you ask these clarifying questions, so I'd ask the audience, what do you want to be known for? And what and then look to your integrity point. Are are you doing those things? Are you doing the things that you want to be known for? Or is that some theoretical thing you have in your brain? I want to be known as, I want to be known for, but none of the things I'm doing in my life contribute to that. So there's this false sense.
Much of a difference is there for you, and what do we want to be known for, and what do you want to contribute to society?
I think they're the same.
See, I'm not so sure that they are.
Mm,
One of the things that happens, and I see this a lot, is there's this push, and particularly for men, that is, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be famous for? What do you want to lead? All of those kind of things. We cannot have a system where everybody is a leader. And we cannot have a system where we don't have people that fix our gutters and hold flags on highways and in construction zones and dig ditches. And I think that we have gotten away from what can we do to contribute to what do we want to be known for, which is an individualistic process. That worries me.
so you added the word famous, which I didn't consider at all. I don't think it's about being, I think what you want to be known for can be, I'm a really great dad. I'm a really great team member. You can count on me. I'm reliable. I'm hardworking. I want to be known as a stalwart friend. I want to be known for really a loving partner. People can tell my relationship with Kimberly just by watching us on a, just by watching how we are with one. I want to be known for that. I want to be known for living the tenets of courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. And none of that has to do with being famous. So I agree, but I would, when I said but, I apologize. I believe that even on we're spending all of Biden's money for construction and infrastructure, right?
Mm,
There's road work going on everywhere.
thank goodness.
Yeah. And on those crews where we need that infrastructure, there's leaders there. There's good workers, like good workers get noticed and turn into our next leaders, right? There's the guy who starts off and he works his way up. We see all of that. So famous isn't a part of it. change of subject just a tiny bit. When I was doing another show called 805 Conversations, we got into a talk about what millennials want to be, what do they want to be known for? You know what the 53% of them said? They want to be famous. And we said, well, what do you want to be famous for? And that was the question that stumped them. Well, I just want to be famous. Well, but for what? What do you mean for what? I want to be famous. So that really stumped me, because for me it's always about doing something, but I'm not famous, and that's not what drives me. It is celebrity. I would say the word celebrity drives people. They like that lifestyle. It's an aspirational lifestyle for a lot of people. But every single one of those celebrities that they look up to, if you talk to them, that was a 10-year haul of hard work and grit and disappointment, and not getting the gigs, and all the things that it takes to be that. And you have to have a certain amount of drive and want to get to there. But it's hard work. I mean, the point of all of this, what do you want to be great at, is what do you want to work really hard at?
Exactly. And one of the pieces, and Galloway alluded to this, is what are you willing to devote your life energy to? And maybe that's what the phrase that I was looking for is, what are you willing to devote your life energy to? I mean, you have devoted your life energy to a couple of primary things. I mean, one, on a business level, one, the very high tech animation process, also cooking, which, by the way, everyone, I have eaten Mark's cooking and it's the best. You're the best. And you've also devoted your life energy to being a parent, a husband, and an absolutely fantastic grandfather. Those are the things that you've devoted your life energy to. And those things are not about, one of the things that I so deeply appreciate about you, you don't do those things to get known. I mean, and again, for the audience, I don't know how long I knew you before it was like, oh, this guy Mark, he's a pretty fucking big deal in the world of animation. And it's like, oh, there's these Academy Awards that Mark's name is on. Huh. Is that it? And just recently, I think it was a 40-year anniversary, right?
Yeah, two
Yep.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
3 weeks ago. And but that's not what you lead with. You're not like, hi, my name's Mark Sylvester and I have Academy Awards to my name. It's like, hi, my name's Mark Sylvester. How are you? Those pieces that where you really have truly contributed to society and to family are really big deals. Maybe another way we can bring this in is, what do you want to be incredibly competent at?
It's interesting when you say that. The thing that comes through my mind is I want to, and I am competent at researching something I'm interested in to learn every aspect of it I can. I'm very good at that. So if something captures my interest, I I am voracious. Thankfully now we have the internet. I think it started when I was 12 and I read the World Book Encyclopedia. My mom had, I've told you that story. She got it for $10, got all 26 volumes and from
Mhm.
1925, and brought it home, and I read the whole thing. And I've just, there's so much to learn. But on a specific topic like my orchids, I read everything I could about orchids. Right now we have a new kitten, and we have a lot of books already because we've had kittens, but I've gone and reread all the things that I need to know. I love to have all of that at the ready. So I guess I want to be known as, I think it's the lifelong learner. I think that would be, I'm curious and lifelong learner. So I want to be great. I want to be very competent at, um, at professional development and those kinds of things. And I think that becomes part of what we've talked about before is conscious competence. So I would challenge the listener or the viewer now that we're on YouTube, which is great, to consider without telling anybody else, just answer the question for yourself. Like, what do I want to be really good at? And I like the word great. Like, great's a good word. Like, what do I want to be great at? I want to be great at this thing. I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great citizen. And great, you define what great means, but it's get to that level of unconscious competence where you're just great at it. You don't have to your point, you don't have to have any notoriety. You don't have to any of those things. But what turns out is when you're really good at something, people pay attention. And that is a good thing in because it might mean you get better jobs, you get better opportunities. Scott will say you get better, you get access to better looking mates.
Better looking and more choice, yes.
Yeah.
So for you with all of this, how does leadership fit into this? Because one of the things that Scott talks about is that the second little clip I was looking at that you turned me on to was the whole piece of how boys and young men are struggling and the level at which, and that this actually feeds into what I was saying as a quote, following your passion is a sometimes a dead end because that's different than what are you willing to work really hard at?
I'm going to add in there, and we talked about this a couple of shows ago, ikigai, which is there's the four circles. One is passion. It's those things you just stuff you love. The skills that you have, which you're competent in, and then what can you make money at? And then the fourth one is your mission. What are you driven to do? And I think we've been dancing around all four of those just now. And by thinking about what you love, the hobbies, if you can monetize those are greatest side hustles, I think. The what skills you have, what you've been trained to do, what you've been mentored at, what you've gone in and consciously studied, and then figuring out how to monetize those. I spend a lot of time working with people on like what can you do that you can monetize, right? And I've always been one of not working for the man. I think that's my hippie roots, right?
Mhm.
I'm entrepreneurial only because I don't like being told what to do. And to get back to your part about leadership, I'd like to do a series of shows about leadership because I think it's a misunderstood word. Just because someone's the boss doesn't make him the leader at
Right.
all, right? There's a concept I've heard called leading from behind. I'm not really sure about that one. That is probably a whole show worth of stuff. But I found that if you if you are confident and you have a point of view and you say we let's do this, and you know who you are and what you want to do, and you have a sense about that without being a dick, you know what I mean, with that
Mhm.
you're confident, right? You just like that is a very attractive quality to people because not everybody is like, and I what I call that is a center of gravity. And I said, if you have a strong sense of who you are, that is attractive. So look at the word attract. It's magnetic. Look at the word magnetic. It draws people in, which is why I like having a building statement. I like having a sense of purpose. I like being very intentional. And when you have a center of gravity, it attracts things to you. It attracts mates. It attracts clients. If you're in business, it attracts investors. It attracts notoriety from the press. It attracts customers. People like that. Is that leadership? Maybe. I'm pointing away. To me, leaders. Someone explained this in a visual, which I loved. Was the leader was the one who could climb up the tallest tree and look and say, yep, we need to go in that direction. That's the right way to go. Which I kind of like. Leaders without any followers are not leaders, right? I've heard that one before. And I just like, hey, to me, it's the one who is most certain. Hey, yeah, yep, let's go this way. And you have some certainty. Okay, let's do that. Right? They have a good, strong sense. It's the person who's so, well, I'm not sure. I don't know which way to go. I'm not, I don't want to follow that person.
So let me throw in a couple other pieces here, because I think for me, I want to be careful about using somebody being certain as a criterion to follow them. Because right now in our society, we have people who are totally certain about X, Y, and Z. And if we follow that, we're going to go down the tube. Let me talk about two possibilities here. One is my friend slash horsemanship mentor speaks about what he calls passive leadership. And his definition for passive leadership is behaving in such a way that people want to follow you. And what he means by that is that you're not out advertising, you're not doing the, Instagram thing where you have your phone out here and you're walking by woods and you try and say something profound.
You're not trying to be an influencer.
Leading from behind, to me, and I actually use that term a lot. And again, it comes from horsemanship. It's like watching, and instead of climbing the tree and go, we got to go that way. It's more along the line of creating openings, watching choices that people make and helping guide them in those choices. Like one of the pieces that's really interesting, both with Boyd Vardy, and there's another man who named John Young, Jon, then Young. Both of them talk about tracking and tracking lions. And John Young speaks about the song Bushman in Africa, whom he spent years working with. And it's having a sense of, almost without the actual tracks on the ground, but having a sense of what direction to go in following the lines. And they even talk about it as sort of this silver light. But part of what leading from behind has to do, and that kind of leadership, it's like being so attuned to your body and so attuned to what's happening inside of us that we actually, from the inside out, can go, oh, this is a direction that is the good way to go, versus, okay, I'm going to get in the tree and look and try and put down the positive and negative and all of that stuff. So it's not only, I think, leading from behind in a group, but it's also leading yourself from behind. And what I mean by that is, instead of leading only with our head and looking at a map and going, oh, we need to go that way, it's fully tuning into who we are, fully tuning into every sensory piece of information that we have, and following that from an intuitive and instinctual place. And I think that we have lost that as a society and as a culture. And I think we've lost that as a group of men.
I think that's and as you were saying that, I was feeling that, and I agree with you. And I think you're one of the voices who reminds us of that, which is why this show is so good, is because you're exactly right. I know our improv teacher will stop us after a couple of lines and he goes, hold it. You guys are operating up here right now.
Mm-hmm.
How did what she said make you feel? Like, that's what's interesting to us. She just told you whatever she said, and you reacted with your head, not your heart, not your body. How does it feel? And so What's interesting is the correlation here between the two, which is to stop for a second. How do you feel? And now react emotionally to what happened. And it's another example of how improv is life, and life is improv, and
Totally.
why I encourage people to go have those kind of classes. But to your point, I think we would follow someone who was really good at being in touch with those feelings. I think we intuitively trust that person.
So what makes I agree. What do you think happens that creates that process where we intuitively trust that person? What is your hit with that?
My first response is that if it's following the thinking person might be manipulating me. They may be using certainty to manipulate me. That has happened to me. I've been taught how to do that. As opposed to someone who is in their body and feeling, it's very hard, not very hard. For me, it's very hard to fake that. That's a genuine who that person is. Genuinely, if that person is not a good person, they're an evil person, and you're going to feel that,
I get it. Yes.
right? And so I think that um, paying attention to that is, and as humans, what do you want to be great at? Is I want to be great at integrating the somatic feeling, what my body's feeling, with what my intellect and my experience and all of that, in being able to integrate those two. I want to be great at that. There you go, boss.
There you go. That's perfect. I love that.
I love how we we always get there.
Yes, we always get there.
We've never not gotten there.
So I know we're wrapping up here, but I really want to point this out. I believe that we always get there with each other because both of us attune to ourselves, but more importantly, we attune to each other, attune to what's happening for you that we can integrate, connect with, and work on.
Because it's not about me, it's about you.
Exactly.
Hey, I love you. Have a
Love you
great
too.
rest of the weekend.
Thank you, and you too. And good luck with your new little buddy.